All right, let's jump right in. What are the biggest, most immediate threats facing the United States today? We're going to answer that question by looking directly at what U.S. intelligence agencies are actually saying in their latest assessments for 2025. Let's get into it. So what's keeping America's top security minds up at night? I mean, when they look at the very near future, what are the risks that really, truly stand out? The answers might surprise you, not just because of what they are, but because of how close to home they really hit.
And there you have it. The consensus really boils down to these three primary threats, which, as you'll see, are often deeply interconnected. We're talking about attacks on our digital world, military pressure that's designed to stop just short of all-out war, and the ongoing dangers of crime and terrorism spilling across borders. What's really telling is that two of these three operate in that murky gray area, and that says a whole lot about the nature of modern conflict. Let's break each one down.
First up is the threat that is happening literally right now, every single second of every day: cyber attacks. This is widely seen as the most probable and persistent danger we face, a constant battle being fought on a digital frontline that's everywhere.
So what are we really talking about when we say cyber operations? Look, this is way more than just stealing data or hacking an email account. We're talking about deliberate, targeted attacks designed to break into, shut down, or even destroy the very systems that make our country function. You know, power grids, financial networks, communication systems, the whole shebang.
U.S. intelligence is not beating around the bush about who has both the high-tech tools and the political will to carry out these kinds of attacks. The assessments are crystal clear and consistently name China, Russia, and Iran as the primary state actors developing and deploying these advanced digital weapons.
And listen to this quote from the Department of Homeland Security. This isn't some abstract what-if warning. It's a direct statement that our adversaries are already in position to mess with the core functions of our daily lives. This is about whether the lights stay on, whether you can access your bank account, or whether hospitals can even function. It's that serious.
And here's a perfect example of how it works in the real world. Take the Chinese-linked group known as Salt Typhoon. This wasn't a smash-and-grab job. No, it was a patient, three-step process. First, they get inside our critical networks. Second, they just sit there, quietly collecting intelligence. And third, and this is the really crucial part, they leave behind hidden tools that could be activated later to cause massive disruption if a bigger conflict were to ever break out.
So, what's the official assessment on the odds of this kind of thing happening? It's not low, it's not moderate, it's high. This is seen as a near certainty, just a constant reality of the world we live in now. All right, let's move on to our second threat and see how all this starts to connect.
Our second major threat operates in what experts love to call the gray zone. That really murky, uncomfortable space that isn't quite peace, but it's not quite war either. This is the new world of hybrid warfare.
Hybrid actions are all about applying pressure, about pushing the limits without triggering a full-blown military response. We're talking about things like harassing U.S. naval ships, buzzing our aircraft, or taking aggressive actions against one of our allies. The goal is always to test American resolve and to achieve their own goals without ever having to fire a shot in a declared war. The key players in this space are pretty familiar, with the addition of North Korea. But the thing that's really setting off alarm bells in the intelligence community is the sheer level of coordination between these countries. They're sharing tactics, technology, and intelligence in what some officials have called an unprecedented alignment against the U.S. and its allies.
You know, for a very long time, the U.S. was protected by two giant oceans. But this quote from the Defense Intelligence Agency makes it pretty clear that those days are over. The development of long-range missiles, hypersonic weapons, and even space-based capabilities means the U.S. homeland itself is now well within reach.
So the likelihood here is assessed as moderate to high. Now, why the range? It's because these kinds of events often depend on a specific trigger. It could be a regional crisis that boils over, or just a major political miscalculation that could quickly escalate a tense situation into a direct, if limited, confrontation.
Okay, finally, let's turn to our third category. These are threats that don't come from a nation-state's army, but from powerful networks that operate in the shadows: transnational crime and terrorism.
This number is it's absolutely staggering. To put it in perspective, synthetic opioids, mostly fentanyl, trafficked by transnational criminal organizations, are killing over 100,000 Americans every single year. This isn't some potential future threat, it is a clear and present catastrophe happening right now. And here is where the scale of this crisis just becomes undeniable. While the threat of foreign terrorism rightly gets a ton of our attention, the death toll from illicit narcotics is, well, it's on a completely different planet.
Intelligence analysis points to this as one of the single greatest immediate threats to American domestic stability.
Now, of course, that doesn't mean the threat of terrorism has vanished. Not at all. The Department of Homeland Security is clear that ideologically motivated violence, often carried out by lone individuals who are inspired by foreign groups, remains a very persistent and capable danger right here at home.
Now for what might be the most important part. None of these threats exist in a vacuum. You have to see them as an interconnected web, where adversaries can use multiple tools at the exact same time to achieve their goals.
A modern adversary isn't going to choose just one of these. They'll launch a cyber attack to disrupt communications, while at the same time flooding social media with disinformation to create chaos, all while also applying military pressure in a key region. It's a combined arms approach designed to overwhelm and exploit vulnerabilities across our entire society.
And that brings us to our final question. When the digital, physical, and informational battlefields all merge into one, when threats can come from nations, from criminal networks, and from lone individuals all at the same time, what does being prepared truly look like? That's the challenge these assessments really leave us with.